Hey everybody, it's Christian Buckley doing another MVP Buzz Chat, and I'm talking today with Galen. Hello.
Hey, hey.
Galen, this is one of those things, it was a long time coming. What took you so long? But congratulations.
Better late than never, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, yeah. We'll see. Yeah. No, Galen, folks that don't know who are you, where are you, and what do you do?
So thanks for having me first. My name is Galen Keene. I am in Southern California. I have a home office based in Ladera Ranch, which is in South Orange County, um, near San Diego, which is where I've spent most of my community days and have applied most of my, early community contributions. Yeah, I focus primarily on the Microsoft 365 platform. I work a lot in teams and really help people, unify communications, content, and processes. That's my jam.
I know that. So Galen's a great example, folks, for those people that have been, in the community doing stuff for years. So speaking at conferences, like you're speaking at major conferences, community events, and things, organizing events. You were one of the organizers of, I know, out of SoCal, one of the. I can't remember if you guys did a 24-hour one. Did you ever do one of those as well?
We did a
It was like a follow the sun for people don't know,
we
like
did a
around the
20
clock, around the world online event.
we did 24 hours, 36 hours, and let me count, 70 hours, I believe, one
I
time.
don't think I
Yeah.
helped with that one or participated in that one. I think I did the first two versions of that. But yeah, that's insane. Like why? Why? But I remember talking to you, talking to Ryan, Ryan Scout and another friend who's another MVP. But you guys working on that with Joel and stuff. And it's like, oh no, he's over there sleeping now. I'm like, oh yeah, you guys have been going all night.
It's a lot of fun. You get to know people in ways that you otherwise wouldn't, especially, after you've been awake for a couple days. Um, some qualities come out that you wouldn't otherwise
Yeah.
express, right?
Yep.
But what's really cool about it is when anybody who submits to speak is allowed to speak, then you get just such an overwhelming range of topics and speakers that have spoken a lot at events of all sizes, but first time speakers in far off lands,
Yeah.
Malaysia, Indonesia, parts of Africa that I've never traveled to and may have never spoken to anybody in that region before. And then to be able to help them and coach them through, in some cases, the delivery of their session, so rewarding. And like from a community perspective, that's the coolest part, is to help people realize their dreams. Christian, like, in Southern California, I went to an event that, many Joel and Dan Holm and, you know, um, others were at. And I didn't plan on, going into the collaboration space. I was there this was at the experts conference. I was there at the experts conference to get questions answered that I had for problems that I was experiencing with SharePoint 2000. This is SharePoint 2010,
Yeah,
right?
I was trying to remember because that was the one where it was down at like where the Lakers play, like sitting down
Yeah.
there. Because I spoke at that one.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
were there. You know, all the people that and so I experienced all of you guys there and gals and was like, wow, this is such a cool group of people. Um, people came and sat with me at lunch and were super interested in what I was working on and how to help, and then made themselves available after the conference. I had just never experienced that. Primarily, I had been working on, you know, network engineering and those kind of projects before that, and
Mhm.
was looking at this work with SharePoint as like, I got to do this. Well, at least they're going to send me to a conference at the JW Marriott downtown LA. That's cool. I'll do that. But the experience was awesome. And the train ride home back to San Diego, where I lived at the time, I remember thinking, wow, this is a cool feeling. This was a really cool group. I want to do for others what this group has done for me. Like I felt changed, right? And so
Yeah.
when I got back to San Diego, I started to look up, user groups and whatnot. Found that Chris Givens was having a SharePoint 2010 launch party like in a couple weeks, and
Hmm.
went to it and met him and Tom Castiglia and Tony Rockwell and others, and the rest is history, as they say. But it was a really cool beginning, and very motivational. And I remember thinking, like I said, I want to accomplish what these folks have accomplished so that I can help others the way I feel like I'm being helped.
Yeah.
And that's the most rewarding bit of all of it.
Well, that's a great example. But first, I just want to say that again. Thank you for saying that I was part of a cool group. I will be clipping those portions and sharing that of the videos with my kids, just as a reminder that your dad's cool. No, but this is one of the things. I think it's a great example for people that want to get more involved with the community. That you kind of did that path, like you were involved in and reaching out and helping with other events. I mean, you helped, and promote for others in the Western US and beyond that as well, but helped us here where I'm in Utah. And I know like Phoenix and other events too. That's why I'm saying that you've been doing a lot of those activities for a long time, kind of in the background. And then, it just became one of those things where you just became one of those people like I'm sure you have people have told you, it's like, wait, you're not an MVP already? Or, um, you know, I got that feedback as well, 15 years ago. Like, I thought you're speaking all these conferences, you're writing all this. Why are you doing that stuff? It's like, because I enjoy sharing what I'm learning about. It's just
Right.
part of the way that I operate.
Yeah, totally. And I think for me, uh, it is something that I thoroughly enjoy. I feel like over time, the amount of effort that I spend in the community, in some ways, it's a hobby, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends are in the community, and I've had the pleasure as a consultant now to be able to work with many of them, and that's just all very rewarding, right?
Yeah.
And so I look at it now again, if I can go help somebody, whether it's somebody who wants to speak or present, or whatever they're doing for the first time, if I can help them with that, if I can help an event, in this case, we have a Phoenix event coming up soon, and it's been a while since they've had one, so super excited about opportunities like that. Not to mention the opportunities to engage with well-established events also, but
Mhm.
uh, engagement, right? It's really around engagement, both other members of the community to help them achieve their goals, but especially people that are just starting out or looking for some type of guidance. If I can help in that way, I'm, that I like to say that fills my passion bucket. And, I like to have things. So I have a job and I make
Things are
money.
nice. Food, shelter,
You
those
know,
things are nice to have as well. Yeah.
the minor details, right?
Yeah.
But the reward of contributing to the community is, like I say, that fills my passion bucket, if you will, and that helps get through the grind.
Yeah. I know you and we work together on some things and been involved with the community activities. I'm sure since you've become just in this short time become an MVP, you've already had other people like reach out to you and say like what do you have to do? Like what's the process? What are your recommendations? What's your guidance for people that are interested? Like where are there opportunities for people to join this community as an MVP?
So I think the first thing that's super important is to understand, what you like to do. Is it writing blogs? Is it speaking at events? Is it coordinating events and like producing them? To really kind of focus in and do a self analysis of what makes you happy as it relates to these technologies that we get to work with, and figure out how to blend your interests with the technology, because that over time is gonna be what keeps you motivated.
Yeah.
And then, don't be shy. Really always look for ways to push yourself out of your comfort zone, because that's going to take you to conferences, to user groups. It's going to, create a connection with others that you wouldn't otherwise have created, because you're putting yourself out there. You're asking for what people need, and you're saying, here's what I'd like to do, and not being afraid of somebody saying, I don't have a need for that. Because when they do have a need for that, then you can lean into that experience, and you'll find it so rewarding. And those kind of contributions will just continue to come, because the word gets out about your capability and the value that you bring. And so, really finding what you love to do and leaning into that the most, and advertising it, sharing it, and so that others know that they can count on you for that.
Yeah.
That's what I found. Thank you, Christian, for saying what took you so long. But I was just having fun, hanging out with the user groups and with all of these community day events. SharePoint Saturdays back in the day, and I I I think that I just was lucky enough to have found a group of mentors that was doing the things that naturally resonated with me.
That's you make a great point. And I've talked with people on this previously, but I was just actually remembering there was a former MVP. So I talked to him. So he just had 1 year as an MVP. I'm like, oh, what happened? Like I thought like you had been working towards that. And he just commented, he says, I was doing things to get the MVP because I wanted to have that on the resume. He says that weren't me. Like I was having to spend extra time, and I was felt like over my words overburdened by that with the real job and thing. So they looked at it completely different. Look, there's nothing wrong. Jobs change, roles change, desires, passions about what you want to go and do. But as I always say, the stuff that I do that helped earn me the MVP award and to continue to be an MVP, I would be doing this stuff whether or not the MVP program existed. It's just part of who I am.
Right.
Writing, sharing, like teaching, speaking it like like I said, it's a hobby. It's part of my job. It's just part of what I do.
Yeah, I think there's definitely benefits that works both ways. If you are engaged in this community, or in a community, in your community, and you're happy about it, you're excited about it, you're going to keep contributing, and people are going to keep responding. And that, for me, like I said, that give and take, that's the engine, right? That's the fuel to the
Mhm.
fire, so to speak. And I really enjoy it. So I try to get people to understand that there's no equation. It's not a 1+1 = 2 kind of thing, becoming an MVP. It's really just following your passion, hopefully your passion. And then, I can tell you that there is a method for making sure you're cataloging all of the things that you do. And I would advocate to anyone that's trying to become an MVP, to seek out advice from other MVPs on how they achieve that. Because once I got serious about applying to be, or submitting the application, I was not awarded on my first submittal, and part of that was because of how I was collect keeping record of everything that I was doing.
Yeah.
That almost seems like a job in and of itself, so I really appreciate even what you've done in that
Well,
respect with
yeah, I have kind of my standard advice for that of doing that. But I mean, that was a struggle for me. And I'm underneath. I've been in tech my entire career, but I'm a a marketing guy, and for as much my lack of walls. Yeah, ask me a question, ask me for my opinion. I will share my opinion, and that's good and bad. But yeah, that's something that even I had to kind of train myself. I was so big at like promoting things, but not my role in the things, not my piece of that. It was an adjustment to go and start capturing that, and then uh, not feeling like you're saying, "Hey, look at me, look at what I'm doing." Makes me think
Right.
of Stewart from Mad TV. If you remember, look what I can do. No, it's not that. Uh, but still self-promoting. It's why I always I laugh sometimes at my own joke though. But I have a tag on my blog called blatant self-promotion is a tag. So I label stuff as blatant self-promotion when I'm like cataloging it, just because I can laugh at myself. Yeah.
And that's the one tag that you use to filter for all of the contributions.
No, I've got my monthly summary, which is where I
Right.
catalog everything. But when I'm talking about like, hey, I'm doing this thing, or I'm going to be speaking at this event, I'll add in the blatant self-promotion tag.
But that what you said about your monthly roundup, I don't know exactly what you call it, but I remember early, a while back, you expressing, "Hey, here's what I do," and now that's what I summarize it every week, because when you really think about everything that you're doing, and this is kind of the funny part recently, is just what is a contribution? That in and of itself is an interesting topic. And if you sit down and think about all the things that you have going on, wow, there's so many contributions in there that you might not think are contributions and other people do. So that maturation has led to, gosh, I really need to think about this more often.
Yeah, there's I've seen people that have submitted, because I have seen some submissions and I've provided feedback. I've been shown some things as I've been involved with the MVP and the RD programs with Microsoft, and was part of a hand select panel of current MVPs and RDs that helped provide information about the current state of the programs and where we want to go, and was even shown some, not with names, but of contributions, and like, what are your thoughts about the different things? Like, people were listing on there and providing links to tweets. Like, no,
Yeah.
no, like
Right.
now that's not a contribution. However, going and providing answers to questions on tech community and like in forums, as each one of those, and said, hey, look over there, you don't even have to, you could just provide a couple of examples and say, like, over the last 12 months, because it's looking past the past year, I've answered 45 questions, technical questions. And you go look at my profile, because you can easily find all of that and point people back to the profile, especially now, like that tech community has badging and stuff. It's going to be easier to highlight that. But that, when you're able to show the kind of the aggregate view of a lot of those, those social pieces, like, it does count. It's
Yeah.
it's very valuable.
Very much. Very much. And I think, at least for me, the human connection is the most valuable piece.
Of course.
So
Yeah.
the opportunity to mentor people, the opportunity to, if somebody's looking to overcome a technical challenge, or even, how do I transition to a new role, or all of those things are so much fun to engage people, about. And it, you know, I would say to people, hey, think about those things as well, because you might not be considering those as ways in which you're contributing, but you are. That's a huge contribution.
Yeah.
The impact you can make on another life is probably the most valuable contribution. So think about what you're doing there and how you might represent that. But most importantly, follow what you like to do and what you love.
Yeah. So two last questions for you. So one, I always like to know, like, in this space, since we're in the same space, I'm a SharePoint and Teams MVP. Those are my concentrations. I mean, I put three. Everybody's doing Copilot, like that's in
Oh,
there. It's like,
Copilot.
but yeah, I'm doing a lot with Copilot. And then I'm still a Yammer / Viva Engage guy. I love that product. I wish more organizations would realize that they're like how important that social engagement. But I'm okay. I'll get off of my my soapbox there. Um, what like recent announcements? Things like what are you most passionate? What are you excited about now of like recent announcements?
Well, I mean, there's so much coming down. I mean, there's a lot going on around Copilot, and of course, that's the overwhelming majority of development is around Copilot and the capabilities of generative AI, and that's a lot of fun. We've been talking a little bit of we said SharePoint Saturday a couple times in this meeting. So, just the other day there was a lot of new SharePoint news, and so it's cool to see SharePoint brought back into the conversation. There's some really cool things going on around, new ways in which you can lay out web parts in a section on a page, and that seems old hat, but I was in a meeting with a client this morning where that was very relevant. It was like,
Yeah.
can we just do that right now? No, you have to wait.
Yeah.
How long do I have to wait? All of those things are really cool developments, and it's neat to see how Copilot's being leveraged in some of these platforms we've worked with for over a decade, to leverage, to use them in new ways. And so some of how Copilot's engaging with SharePoint is super exciting.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of really cool Teams features that are coming out, and some of the lesser discussed, capabilities around Teams Phone is quite nice, and so I'm excited to see how that fosters better collaboration as well. So everything does revolve around Copilot right now, and that's just the way of the world. So
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of Copilot trainings with companies, and adoption and implementation campaigns, and beginning to do some more work around the integration of Copilot into business process. And so I'm hoping that in this year, like what I'm really excited about from a Copilot perspective is in 2025. So 12 months from now, as 2025 comes to a close, I'm hoping that we're seeing more of that, the integration into a business process, so that we can really get to measuring the impact of AI in the business process. And this is less subjective.
Less talking about features, more talking about here's what we did. Here's
Right.
ROI of that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing those stories, seeing those scenarios.
So
Sure.
we're leveling up people's understanding, right? What is it? How do I use it? How do I transform from a search query based experience to a prompting experience? It's all really exciting, and hopefully people invest in Viva and the employee experience, because those investments will help us achieve the integration of Copilot into business processes to measure that impact that much faster. But nonetheless, I think, this time next year, if we were to talk again, I hope that we're in that phase. I expect us to be.
Yeah. Lots going on. I know it's rapidly changing, and even it's going to change in ways we don't even expect yet. It's a exciting time to be in IT for sure, to work with technology. But yeah, there's a lot going on. Well, my last question, Galen, is I always ask. We get the standard answers, but I always like to ask though, if people want to reach out and connect with you, where can they find you? Where are you most active in the socials?
Most active, LinkedIn. You can hit me up on LinkedIn, in any form on LinkedIn. All the buttons that are on the profile, all of that stuff, you'll receive a response within 24 to 48 hours if you get me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter. I'm also engaged in the maturity model for M365 core group. So if you attend one of those meetings, you'll find me there. The San Diego Microsoft 365 productivity group, we're on Meetup. You can find me there. Lots of ways to engage, but LinkedIn is the number one.
Yeah, it's again one of those. I don't know how many Galen Keens are out there floating around in the world. As you know, just like with the Christian Buckleys out there, there can be only one. We must destroy them.
That's
But
right.
yeah, um, but really easy to find. Either one of us out that way as well. So, well, Galen, it's always great to connect and talk, and we'll. Are you coming to Summit?
Well, you know what? Yes,
Okay.
uh, on a waiting list. But even if I'm not inside
The
while
outside.
Summit is
Yeah.
occurring, as soon as you guys are out, then I'll be there as well. So
I
I'll be.
hear Microsoft is not really big on security. We might be able to get you in. Yeah, that's not happening. Like,
And
but you might.
I'll be at MCT Summit as well. I know this
Oh
is
yeah,
an MVP talk, but if
yeah.
you're there a few days in advance, I'll love
Well,
to hang out.
we'll see you in Redmond nonetheless. I mean, look, there's a lot of conversations that happen in the cafeterias and even in the waiting areas of the offices of the buildings. So there's still stuff you can participate in if you're not officially in there. I'm just saying, throwing that out there. But yeah,
Well, yeah, so I'll be in town and I'll see you in Redmond.
I'll see you there. All right, it was great talking to you.
Hey, thanks, Christian. Appreciate you having me.